morning and welcome to another edition of newspaper review on Osbc TV. Ilé-Àwíyé Bale Òṣogbo. Happy Friday to everyone out there as we welcome you to another edition of the program. My name is Tajuddin Amodu and we're here this morning with a lot of dailies across Nigeria. We have the Sun newspaper, we have the Punch, the Daily Asset is also available, as well as Vanguard newspaper, The Nation, we have a Daily Post, The Point, and so many other ones. And of course, if you go through some of the headlines on almost all the newspapers, it's talking about the zoning of the speakership of House of Representatives, and of course the leadership of the Senate, talking about who becomes the Senate President, and of course the Deputy Senate President, as well as some other things. And of course some other newspapers are also saying that probably this may try to tear the APC apart. We are going to take a look at some of these. And of course, what happened yesterday as the Golden Eagles of Nigeria lost the ticket to feature in the 2023 FIFA World Cup because they bowed out yesterday to Burkina Faso, losing by 2-1. We have a guest on the studio this morning, and let me welcome him. And of course, he says good morning to you. Is still the same guest who was here about 2 weeks ago, lecturer from Fountain University, Osogbo, Mr. Akeem Aziz Ademola. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, sir. Thank you, sir, for having me today.
All right, before we come to the guests, let's quickly reel out some of the major headlines on all the newspaper. We start with The Nation newspaper. The Nation newspaper, we have this major headline: APC chairman to aggrieved lawmakers, hold your fire. APC chairman to aggrieved lawmakers, hold your fire. And it has these riders: zoning of National Assembly, top post not final. Yari, Kalu, Musa take protest to Secretariat. Umahi issues will be resolved amicably. You are going to find that on the front page of the Nation newspaper. Also, the same newspaper: free Kano as parting gift. Ohanaeze tells Buhari. Free Kano as parting gift. Ohanaeze tells Buhari. And still talking about the headline on the same The Nation newspaper: 75,000 inmates fit with 22.4 billion naira annually, says federal government. 75,000 inmates feed with 22.4 billion naira annually, says federal government. And also under that, non-oil export proceeds to attract rebate, says CBN. Non-oil export proceeds to attract rebate, says CBN. You find this and more on the front page of the Nation newspaper. And from that, let's go to another newspaper this morning: Daily Sun newspaper. Daily Sun newspaper. It's also talking about the zoning of the Senate presidency. This headline says it: APC admits mistake in zoning of Senate presidency. Others. APC admits mistake in zoning of Senate presidency. Others. And it has these riders: urges aspirants to give party time to further consult, pledges response when president-elect returns from foreign trip. Also another rider: micro zoning to individuals drunk, undemocratic, as coming from Kalu. And the last rider under that says lawmakers will disobey party on day of voting if Yari wants. And that's on the front page of the Sun newspaper. And before we leave that newspaper, let's also take a look at another headline: Osinbajo flags of Oguta Lake Orashi River dredging project in Imo with hope of economic boom. Osinbajo flags off Oguta Lake Orashi River dredging project in Imo with hope of economic boom. And the last headline before we leave to talk about a headline from another is talking about security here. Imo APC chieftain killed by gunmen. Imo APC chieftain killed by gunmen. These are more on the front page of the Sun newspaper. And from that, let's go to the Punch newspaper of today, Friday. The Punch newspaper. National Assembly leadership, APC moves to pacify aggrieved aspirants. National Assembly leadership, APC moves to pacify aggrieved aspirants. With this rider, stop agitations. Party will revisit zoning formula. Adamu begs aspirants. And also on the same newspaper, the Punch newspaper, the topmost on that newspaper, we have this headline: Buhari Osinbajo governors get 651 million naira hardship allowance. Buhari Osinbajo governors get 651 million naira hardship allowance. And also beside that, we also have this talking about economy, saying debt servicing hits $112 million monthly, says CBN. Debt servicing hits $112 million monthly, says CBN. And we also have another thing that relates to politics, and it's saying Atiku relives PDP's glorious days, says party moving backwards. Atiku relieves PDP's glorious days, says party moving backward. And if we come down to that front page of the newspaper, we have this on economy as well. FG sends foodstuffs to Sudan for stranded Nigerians. FG sends foodstuffs to Sudan for stranded Nigeria. And this also has to do with crime or something related happened in Lagos, which has this headline that says Lagos, naked man found dead inside car. Lagos, naked man found dead inside car. And from that, let's go to Vanguard newspaper this morning with this headline. We will not also talk about zoning again, as we have taken that in the previous newspaper. But let's talk about some other things on the front page of Vanguard newspaper. And it's saying consumers raise concern as food sellers use chemical for ripening. Consumers raise concerns as food sellers use chemicals for ripening. That's funny. Because when you look at President in Nigeria, you discover that even banana then it will be very ripe before you, but now you see banana very, very green, and they tell you that it is ripe. Well, I'm also going to take a look at this during the discussion segment. Let's also take another one from the Vanguard newspaper. Detention harms cat Kanu may die in DSS custody. Zekome is saying that. Detention, I'm scared. Kanu may die in DSS custody. That's a foremost lawyer is talking about that. Then also on the same newspaper, Vanguard newspaper, presidential poll, court adjourns Atiku's petition till May 18. Presidential poll, court adjourns Atiku's petition till May 18. And from the Blueprint newspaper, let's also take a look at this headline. Blueprint newspaper, this headline says PDP governors send forth reception, our party receding since 2014. Atiku laments. PDP governors send forth reception, our party receding since 2014. Atiku laments. And also the same newspaper, that's the Blueprint newspaper, it's also saying that Nigeria's oil production falls below 1 million mark. Nigeria's oil production falls below 1 million mark. We have a lot to discuss this morning, and from Leadership Friday, APC caves in, Akpabio Abbas chances threatened. APC caves in, Akpabio Abbas chances threatened. And also from the sport angle, under 17 African Cup of Nations, Eaglet bow out to Burkina Faso, and as a result of that, they will not be participating in the FIFA World Cup. Well, let's now go and discuss some of these major headlines, and we start with the zoning, which actually is almost on the front page of media or newspapers that we brought to the studio this morning. Mr. Aziz Hakim, let's talk about this zoning. But if we look at some of these things that we have read, it seems that the APC, they may want to reconsider the decision that has already been taken as regards putting Akpabio as somebody who is favored to become the Senate president. So, but look at what the chairman of the party is saying now. Do you think they have made a mistake, before they actually said that he is the one favored to become the Senate president?
Yes, I strongly believe they have made a mistake, and from every indication, they do not have a choice than to have a rethink about the zoning arrangement they have come out with, at least to pacify certain aggrieved members of the party. Of course, every one of them knows they can't get all what they want, including the party hierarchy itself.
Okay.
The party hierarchy may not get it as they want.
Okay.
But it will be a question of give and take. You have to give some, give up some, and then you take some. And if this is not done, if they are not careful about this, we might have a repeat of what happened in 2015, when the party somehow lost the opportunity to produce their own Senate president and House of
Saraki,
activities. He had his way eventually, because he had the support of opposition. And talking about opposition, they are quietly looking at the situation of things now, observing and looking at how they can catch in and actually use the opportunity to take away everything from APC. If not directly, maybe indirectly. Eventually, you might have a Senate president from APC that will not be the choice of the party, like it happened during Saraki. The person will be a stooge of the opposition parties, and that will not help us, because in my view, the Saraki leadership of the Senate or the Senate in 2015-2019 was not one that augured well for this country, because of certain actions it took
the legislature and the
executive. We cannot afford that kind of National Assembly leadership at this material point in time. But beyond all of that, I believe the party will be able to sit down and make something meaningful the rolling broadly.
All right, and let's talk about the Kano's issue. I'm talking about Nnamdi Kanu. Free Kanu as parting gift to Anaezi tells Buhari. He has been, in custody, for some years now, and it seems Buhari does not want to release this man. But what his lawyer, is saying, and what his people are talking about Anaezi are saying that he should just free him. But according to the judgment yesterday, the case has been adjourned till September, which means Tinubu must have been sworn in. So, what do you think?
Well, it's a very funny and very serious situation we have on our hands. Kanu's case is one that everybody must be careful about, including the courts. I mean, the way they dispense justice, they must be seen to be fair to all concerned, including Kanu himself. They must only evidence that proves him guilty or otherwise. They should not work with emotions. Yes, it's a group, independent people of Biafra. They have been wreaking havoc in the southeast for so long now, more than how many years? Can't even remember. Yes, that is something that is not very okay with anybody. Nobody is happy about it. But then, sentiment aside, if there are evidence to prove that he is actually the one pulling the strings of IPOB, I should say the law should be allowed to take its course. It's a very beautiful request from Ohanese Ndigbo.
They are supporting,
yes, he is their son. You can't throw away the child with the bath water.
Yes.
They are requesting the president to temper justice with mercy
before he leaves
office as a parting gift for the Southeasterners. Release him and let him go and sin no more. But then the concern of his lawyer, Mike Osekume, a very wily lawyer for that matter, is that he may die in prison. He knows better than you and I. He sees him often than we do. In a swift reaction, the Supreme Court already answered him. He cannot die in prison. We have to allow the law to take its course. And I am of the opinion that that should be allowed to happen. Without being sentimental, I wouldn't want to say what is not evidential. But with the little we know about the whole situation with Kanu, the videos we saw, the audios we heard that have not been debunked yet, I don't think he should just be allowed to go scot-free. He should be given his day in court, and whatever the law decides should be what should happen.
All right. So also, let's talk about something related to that. That 75,000 inmates feed with 22.4 billion naira annually, says the federal government. This is a whopping amount of money to feed, the inmates. Of course, they have to eat anyways.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
but this money
in the first instance, they are criminals. I mean, alleged criminals, not proven by law, except for those of them on death row. Until the law says they are criminals, you have to still take care of them like the normal citizens they are expected to be. So, feeding is part of what you have to give them. Accommodation is part of what you have to give them. And then education. I learned that some of them actually wrote JAMB and they gained admission to the National Open University. So it's a good thing. But beyond that, 75,000 inmates. That's arguably about the total number of inmates we have across the country, which is still very far from the average you have among the countries with the largest number of inmates across the globe. I have done a little bit of search and I discovered that the number of inmates in your prison is commensurate with your level of economic growth. The countries with the largest number of prisoners are the countries with very beautiful economies, the likes of China, USA, and Brazil. And that is another pointer to the fact that your population will determine how much prisoners you have too. I think that is more of it. But beyond all of that, 75,000 being fed with 22.4 billion is a whopping amount. I think at this point in time, the federal government, through the Ministry of Internal Affairs, should start thinking of how to decongest our correctional centers. That is one way through which we will decrease the number of prisoners we have in our prisons. And one way to do this is to expedite the judicial process of trying these people, freeing those. There are several of them that do not have business to be in prison. But some of them, even for crimes they have committed, that should not put them behind bars for more than a few months. Some of them have been there for years.
6 months, 1 year.
5 years. and they have not been attended to. Maybe if the judiciary or the government expedites action on their trials, and they are either freed or they are pronounced guilty and punished, then we can have a lesser number of prisoners and the amount, and we must be truthful with the amount we spend to take care of them. I mean, 22.4 billion is out of this world.
That's about an average of 1.5 billion per month. Wow. That's huge. That's huge. Okay, let's also talk about politics here. Presidential poll: court adjourns Atiku's petition till May 18. It happened yesterday in court. Atiku himself was present, in the court yesterday as tribunal begins sitting. But what do you think will happen? And some people are saying that this particular thing should be done before. Probably a law will be made or a constitution will be amended to ensure that before the swearing in of the president, the tribunal should conclude its sitting.
Yeah, it's a good call,
because the way is going, it will continue even after the swearing in of
the president-elect. That's a confirmed fact, but it's a good thing that people are looking in that direction. But why they have suddenly realized that should be the case at this material time is what baffles me. They didn't call for that years back. Why now? And there's an order to follow. The law stipulates the time frame to go through the trial of, the petitions of the aggrieved parties. 180 days in the first instance, and a subsequent 60 days. That is what the law says. Until we sit down and amend what the law says to reflect something that is reflective of the wishes of the average Nigerian, then we shouldn't be calling for this. Making this kind of calls. It is ridiculous when you hear some very revered Nigerians asking that the president-elect should not be sworn in because there are cases. These people should not claim to be ignorant of the law. He should be sworn in if he is not deemed worthy to be there by the tribunal or by whatever body. Then he will be asked to excuse us, and someone else will take over. The rightful person will take over. We have had several cases where winners of elections were sworn in, they were in office, and while in office the tribunal found them unworthy of being in office, and they were asked to leave, and they had to leave. Why are people now calling a stop to the inauguration of the president when the law does not say such? I think we should be careful how we make requests on this matter.
All right, in just 1 minute, let's take a look at what happened yesterday in the Golden Regrets match against Burkina Faso. They unfortunately did not qualify for the World Cup. What did you think go wrong yesterday?
Well, I want to believe it is lack of experience on the part of the boys. Of course, you don't expect a 16-year-old, 15-year-old to have so much experience. But not just on the part of the boys now, on the part of the coaching, the coaching crew. The tactical depth was not so much. They wouldn't know how to make your team to do certain things.
Because in first half they had a couple of chances.
So many. During the group stages, they had more chances than any other team. They created more chances, but they were able to convert not all of them, only 4, to qualify for the quarterfinals. Yesterday's match, they created more chances than their opponent. But unfortunately, look at what happened. It's a very good team. They touch the ball and distribute the ball among themselves, but when they get to the final half, the final third of the pitch, where the real thing should be done, I saw some very unacceptable misses yesterday, especially the one by Light Eke. You were just alone by the goal mouth and you couldn't put the ball in. It's very worrisome, and I think we can do better. But beyond that, we should look on the brighter side of this team.
Okay.
There are things that are right with them.
Okay.
We should look to see how we can retain them and groom them, like was done for the team that won the World Cup in 1993. They were together in 1991. They couldn't go to the World Cup, and eventually they put them together, and most of them represented the country in 93 and won the World Cup.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Akeem Aziz, for coming on to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Next week is another time you join us on the show. Of course, you meet other presenter on Monday. My name is Tajudeen Amadu saying bye for now.